Hey,
Hi,
Nancy, can you see me? I
yes,
guess
I
you can.
can. I just did now.
I guess you can. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Very good. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to use this as an opportunity to see if I can do the things I want to do.
Okay, we're
Let's,
being
let's,
recorded.
oh yeah, I know. I wouldn't
Okay,
wouldn't say anything that I wouldn't want to see on the front page of the New York Times.
great. Okay.
All right. So let's see. This is the What's the difference between these two screens? I don't know. All right, so let's see what happens. Okay,
So you have just shared your screen, and
are you seeing the grid?
I see the grid, and then the way I'm set up, I see you and me alongside on the right hand.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Okay, well that's the ideal setup.
Good.
I, I'm happy with that. That's good. Glad to see that. And let's.
Do you submit our agenda um to the
y-
town?
Yeah, I do,
Okay.
but I mean, in all honesty, I have a generic agenda because it's too much trouble to change the agenda for each submission. And how would I know? I have to get the Zoom meeting lined up, and I guess I could wait on the town, excuse me, the town posting until a few days before, but life is too short.
Well,
So,
maybe when we start getting on a roll, we might be able to know because some people who would
yeah,
like to hear about their grant would sort of like to know
yes,
ahead of time.
yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And I think what we should do is try to notify people
Yes,
because we'd like them there to ask questions.
right.
But I think that's a point well taken.
Well, actually, Lynn had said that people were going to be invited.
Yeah, that's right. We were
Right,
going to do that.
right. So
Right.
that we would have to know what was going to happen if
Yeah,
we invited them. So,
true
okay.
indeed. True indeed.
You heard that Paul Farmer died.
It's unbelievable.
It is.
It's absolutely unbelievable.
He's just
He's
been.
dead, and Trump and Putin are still alive. I mean, what's wrong with this world?
Yeah, I know, but you sort of can't think like that in equations. But as a person, he's just such an amazing man.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Good and yourself.
Very well, thanks. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Julie. I see your name, but I don't see you.
Well,
Hi.
Julie's having a bad hair day. Oh, she's
No,
with us.
she
Never
isn't.
mind. I take it back.
thank you. Did everybody enjoy today?
Oh yeah, I spent all afternoon doing the minutes. That was wonderful.
I know that feeling. I did the minutes for FinCom.
Well, yeah, you guys have a lot of stuff going on. Hey, how come I don't see a whole slew of, excuse me, of scheduled FinCom meetings?
We are scheduled every second and fourth Wednesday.
Okay.
It's a recurring, for now. We know that
I see.
that will pick up when we get towards the end of
Right.
March. But for right now, it's the second and fourth Wednesday.
Right.
We just got the budget. Wasn't a lot to talk about.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Wise, we were doing a lot of planning, organization.
You guys do an awful lot of work.
It's fun though. I enjoy it. I've learned it.
Well, that's good. Glad to hear that.
Long day, Nancy?
Yeah.
I'm off it today. Spent a part of my afternoon figuring out with my son how we're going to replace the gutters on the house that blew off.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
well, the
Last night?
the last couple of storms pulled one half of the second story gutter away from the house. So it kind of made it off kilter so that the water collected in it. Then we had that sleet storm and the water froze. And they
Oh,
pulled half the gutter right off the house. And part of the fascia board with it. So
oh my goodness.
we're going through what we need to get to replace the fascia board, the soffit, and the gutters.
Mhm.
And a couple of strong men.
Right.
My husband, my son who's a mathematician and his buddy who's an engineer. And my son does construction, so he'll just get it back up there once they get all the equipment.
Oh, good.
Yeah, fun.
Ooh, I can't get my lighting right, can I? How come the rest of you look really healthy and I look like a ghost?
Well,
Because
that's the first time I haven't looked like a ghost.
Huh?
it's all about lighting.
I know my screen is looking back at me, lighting itself white.
Normally I'm in
light-
the shadows.
Huh?
Normally I'm in the shadows. I finally found a room in my house that offers the proper lighting.
But what happens is my screen has the white zoom on it, so it's reflecting back on my face. I think that's what's happening here. Anyway, how is there? Who have we got? Have we got everyone on?
No.
No,
No.
just 3 members and 1 faithful visitor.
A
Well,
faithful FinCom person, I have to
That's right.
say.
Yeah. She takes good care of us. Okay, and looks like Kristen is on. I don't know who JD is. Who's JD? Oh,
Jimmy Dolan is here.
Jimmy Dolan
Wow, Jimmy, great to hear you.
and
Yeah,
Kathy
nice to be
Martin.
with you. I won't be on video, but I'm happy to be with you by voice.
Okay, great, super.
Same here. It's nice to meet everyone. This is Kristen Thaler. This is my first meeting, but I will also just be on audio.
Okay, well, we're very happy to have you here, Kristen, and we have benefited by your participation for sure.
Well, thank you.
I see we have a guest, Kathy Martin.
Kathy Martin's here, yeah.
Yeah. So how many do we need for a quorum, Paul?
That beats me. We've only got 7 members, right?
Right.
So I would say 4 out of
4.
7, but what do I know?
No, I would agree.
Maybe Kristen knows.
I have no idea. Sorry for my delay.
Okay.
I say we're good.
all right.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, then, as chairman of this committee, I'm going to call this meeting to order, a meeting of the Community Preservation Committee, meeting today on February 21st at 7 o'clock in a duly posted meeting.
He says.
I'm just saying that, a duly posted meeting.
It's true, absolutely.
So we all had a chance to attend the open meeting law workshop, which Diane Dunphy organized for us, which was very helpful. This meeting is being held by Zoom. Members of the community who are on can participate by making their comments in the chat category or chat column, or raising their hands when raising their hands. So with that, we have committee members. Well, let's call out who's here. Let me start following the minutes that are on the screen. Why don't we go in that order? So I'm
Okay,
Lynn
so,
Spencer. You are?
yeah, Lynn's here, Paul's here. Austin, don't see you.
Nancy's here.
Yes,
Nancy's
Paul,
here.
I'm on the phone.
You are, okay.
Austin is here.
Thank you. Great.
Oh, Ellen's on the phone also, I think.
Okay.
Hi, I'm here. I'm online, but I just use my cell phone to call, and it's better quality.
Yep,
Okay.
okay.
Great. Okay. Do we have David Wilson? No.
Don't see him.
Okay. And we have a new member of our committee who is joining us for the first time tonight, Jimmy Dolan. Welcome, Jimmy.
Hello, nice to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
We'll rapture you up now.
All right. So in terms of the order of business, we have review of the minutes, which are on the screen.
So there's one set of minutes that we had fabulous help from Kristen in preparing, and that's from January 31st.
Okay.
And I can move it down just to show you as much as possible.
So does everyone want to sort of scan these while they're on the screen?
Oh, you know what? I showed you the wrong thing. Silly me, because I moved the statement that Lynn made to the beginning when in fact she made it, as I recall. Well, am I right about that? Did you have those nice words to say for Ellen at the very beginning of the meeting?
I
Lynn, or
did.
was it- Yeah, I thought so. All right, well, let me get this up here. Hold on a minute. I'm all messed up here.
Okay. You do that
So-
while I grab some paper.
Okay, very good. All right. So meeting minutes, not proposed, transcribed. Okay. And that should be, no, it's so odd. Wait a minute. Give me one more chance.
Okay.
I'm demonstrating quite clearly that I am inept. Here we go. Let's try this. All right. So that would be, no, where are we? Minutes, transcribed, no, go away. I can't see under this little notice I'm getting here. Hold on. CPC. Yeah, this is it. So sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. There we go. And you
Yeah,
do
this
start
is-
with
this
recognizing
is the
Ellen.
this is the right one. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Would someone like to move that we accept the minutes unless there are any additions or changes to be made?
Somebody
So
speak up.
Austin, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second for that?
Nancy will second.
Thank you. I'll do a roll call. Paul,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes,
Austin,
Aye.
Jimmy Dolan,
Yes.
Nancy,
Aye.
Me, yes.
Okay, and we have a second set of minutes from January 10. And let me get this out of the way. And so I'll leave that on a page for just a minute and then move it down. And next meeting, I will get them to you before the weekend, promise.
Okay.
This was a meeting at which Tony gave us an update on projects that were from previous years and gave us an overview of what he was planning to propose this year.
That's right.
Oops. This word, that's a mistake. Oops. Okay. Any changes?
Looking for a motion.
This is Austin. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented from January 10th.
Thank you. Second, somebody?
Nancy.
Ellen will second.
Oh, Ellen got it.
Okay. Okay. Again, I'll ask for a roll call vote in favor of accepting the minutes. Paul,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Austin,
Aye.
Jimmy Dolan.
Oh, Jimmy
Aye.
wasn't at the meeting.
Oh, that's right. Oop, so
Well,
I can't vote. Too bad.
I thought it was perfect.
Nancy,
Aye.
Lynn, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh dear. What on the earth is this? All right. All right, Lynn, take it away. What do you want
Yeah,
to?
don't panic, Paul. Don't panic.
I'm
So
not gonna
what I'd
panic.
love it is if you could put on the screen. Yes, exactly. This chart.
Right.
And let's go to the top, please.
To the top.
To the top.
Okay.
So we had divided up. So this is the summary of all the grants that have been received with the information on the chart that we were able to extract from the grants. We will have some columns to fill in, like our recommendations, our, what we think about the quality or completeness of the applications, the opinion on eligibility, and so on. The concept here is that each member of this group will take on 2 projects as their, the ones that they will delve into deeply and then represent their findings or their observations to the group. And then we will then schedule, based on that review process, we will then schedule brief meetings and presentations by the applicant themselves. So there's kind of a pre-screening by a committee member and then, a deeper conversation at a subsequent meeting. And because we have, 12 or 13 applications, we really do need to be efficient about this because our FinCom representative, Julie Tarmy, will remind us that we need to get our recommendations to FinCom in early April so they can have some input, and then they need to be developed for the printing of the town warrant by April 20th. So does that sound right, Julie? Have I got it kind of right?
Does. And I just want to start by saying you do an exemplary job of presenting all of this. And we appreciate the completeness of all the information that you pass on to FinCom.
Thanks, Julie. That's encouraging. That's
Yeah, it's
great.
nice to hear.
Nice to
Thank
hear.
you.
So as luck would have it, the newest committee member, the committee member whose first meeting this is, was assigned without his knowledge, but later with his notification that he'd be working with the Nahant on the Nahant Historical Society's application, as well as the NPT, Nahant Preservation Trust's application. And would I be correct, Jim, if I assumed that you hadn't had time to get going on this, or maybe you have?
I haven't discussed it with the applicants yet, but I've read through it. So there's been, the ball's moving a bit, not as
Okay.
quickly or as far as one might like, but we're moving along. I understand what my task is, if that's helpful.
That's good. That's good. Well, I will just say, is there anything in either one of these applications, and we'll start with the historical societies, that you want to draw our attention to at this point, or deserves greater exploration?
Yes, nothing at this point, but having briefly reviewed both, they seem reasonable, and I'll circle back after doing a little more due diligence on both.
Okay, great. Well, then I think what we'll do is accept those comments on both of those applications, and then move on to the next application, which was the Nahant Village Church. And I think, Paul, you were going to be.
Yeah, I did some work on that. I spent a couple hours talking to Callan Merritt about this.
Okay.
And I think the best place to start with this is a plan. And the plan is on page 45. So let's see if we can find that. Oh, you know what? If I switch from this view to this view, then I can do it faster.
You have become like a Zoom whiz, huh?
I'm getting good at this.
Zoom guy.
I am getting good at this. And you may not appreciate this, but I have rotated this. It's a little too big though. So let me just make it a little bit smaller. See if maybe, I don't know if it'll let me do this. Let's do 180. Did it like that? Yes, it did, sort of. Okay. So this is the front of the church. This is the main church, and this is the community center. They probably have another name for it that I don't know. Lynn, what do they call the building they added on?
They call
Oh,
it they call it Swansburg Hall.
I see. Okay. All right. So the objective here is to make both entrances disabled accessible. There's better terminology than that, but that's the one I remember. And it all has to do with grade. And there's also a secondary issue of deterioration of the current paths. So first, let's go to the top. And this is the current plan of the access from the street to the main sanctuary. And there are a couple of steps there. There's one here, and there's another one between, excuse me, between the concrete area and the interior entryway. So the solution to that problem of grade is this. They will not change the grade going straight down the current path. Instead, they will build a path that slowly and gently inclines up to the level of the entryway. And in order to do that, they will have to extend the entryway in either direction. And just like the designers of the great cathedrals in Europe, they have made a cross. Did you notice that? Upside down as it is, but a cross nevertheless. Okay. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I noticed it. There are some issues with exactly what materials are going to be used, but they have a very detailed and dollar specific quote from a design firm. I guess they're landscape and architecture. I don't know the firm itself, but built into it is a 20% cushion for changes in costs. This plan is phase one of what is going to be a much more costly plan to achieve the same goals inside the church, where there are, as you can see, there are three risers here, 4 steps that they have to deal with, and they're going to build a much longer incline, and they're going to do more work inside. So this is phase one. They're asking for $50,000 to replace this current area, add a wing of pathway on either side, and rebuild the front part of the path. And on the other side, doing something very similar. And it seems to me like there's a lot of bang for this buck, having just spent money on a driveway. I'd like to use wish I'd used their contractors. Lynn, I don't know if there are any historic integrity issues here in terms of materials. When I brought that up, Callan Merritt and another gal who's on the building committee said that they didn't think there was anything involved with the new structure, and that where the old structure was concerned, this was comparable to what had already been there. And I'll show you a photograph that at least shows a similar design. I don't know if there's a materials issue or not. The one suggestion I made to them was that the plan that they had did not include any edging between the grass and the material here, which I think is going to be a poured concrete, I forget. And I told them that I thought that if they could find a way to include edging in the budget, they'd be glad they did. But that's a design issue more than a CPC issue, so I'll keep my mouth shut from here on. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about what's being proposed here?
This is Ellen, and I have more questions about the eligibility than I do about.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a minute. We'll talk about that
Okay.
when we talk about the cost. Anybody else
Okay.
have questions about the project? Okay, now I go to page 51. And, okay. So as you can see, this is, oops. As you can see, if I let you see, here we go. Okay. And I'll make it a little smaller so you can see it all. Okay. So each one of the items that we talked about is broken down, and the total cost, I'll make it smaller still so you can see everything at once. Is this too small for you to see on your screens? Can you see it?
I
Nobody's
can see
saying.
it.
All right, fine. I can make it bigger again. Anyway, so these are all the individual costs. The walkways are one of the big items, and doing, excuse me, raising up the stone deck to which the walkways connect. That's the other big item. And then the ones for the vestibule, that's what they call it, they're much less costly. They are proposing a cost of up to $50,000, and they are prepared to provide. Let's see, where did I see that? Oh, here it is. Let me make sure I get that number precisely correct. Okay, they are proposing to put up 10,000. Now they did include as background in the proposal that it's going to be a much more expensive proposition to do all the other things that they've planned to do, but they already have pledges for the entire project of $70,000. So they felt that they could easily come up with 10,000 of that to apply to stage one. Okay, that's everything I was able to glean. Ellen, you want to start the discussion?
Yeah, sorry, I had to mute myself because I had a dog situation. I'm back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I could not tell. I did some reading, and I could not tell if the courts uphold the use of public money for church renovation, even if it's a historic structure. Seemed like over the past 10 years or so, there's been a bunch of communities in Massachusetts that have argued both ways. And I didn't get far enough in my research to determine which way the courts are landing.
So shall
So
I
the
just
question
jump?
is,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Lynn. You probably
So
already
I
know.
can jump into this because apart from this particular role, my firm does a lot of work with historic churches and historic buildings with community preservation funding, and we're deeply aware of the Supreme Judicial Court's recent rulings on this. So in short, you can use CPC funding on historic church buildings so long as those funds do not support liturgical, do not fund the liturgical aspects of the church building, nor should the funds support the operating basis of the congregation. So it's a fine line. I can happily send you the 40-page summary of all of this. But as a result, you know, CPCs are being cautious about making sure that it doesn't hit those two aspects, liturgical aspects or things that help support the operating basis of the church. There's one thing that I do want, and the other thing that I think is important here is to make sure that this building is eligible for funding, CPC funding, on the basis of its historic designation. And I will say that in the past, as I had noted on this summary, CPC funding has been given to the church for work on its slate roof on the main part of the church building. The basis of that is that this building is considered historically significant. The Historical Commission has a detailed Form B description on this building. It was at one point when I was a volunteer years and years ago, I did ask Mass Historical Commission if it could be individually listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And at that point, they said yes, even with the 1955 addition to that building. So I would say it hits on eligibility as being okay, a good example. And as far as the concern about church and state, I think my reading of this is that this would be eligible. Paul, I think it's also useful to show the historic image of that
Yeah.
building that is the
Yep.
basis of this design, because I look at this as it in fact being a restoration. in
Yeah.
many ways.
Yeah, let's see if I can find that quickly.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it looks like there was something very similar, at least going in one direction. Okay, this is the center walkway, and then looks like there's a fence. So we are restoring this and adding a similar one roughly where the fence is.
I think it actually did circle around like that.
Did it? Okay. I wasn't sure what I could see on this one.
Yeah.
But it may well, in fact, be very similar to what they had. And these photographs don't add too much.
Yeah. Other comments from the committee? I think Ellen raised a very good point, so I think that's important to get on the record.
Lynn, is it possible to, in the grant, to say that, and this is certainly my feeling and was reflected in the letter of support that Jim Walsh wrote for the Humanities Council or Council for the Arts, I forget which it is, that the church has made itself readily available in the past for all sorts of non-religious and ecumenical and other community spirited activities. And that one of the reasons that we would like to do what we can is to make sure that these activities are accessible to the entire community. You know, if what you say, Lynn, is true about the requirements of a grant, then I don't think we have the leverage to say, well, you better make sure that you do more than just have your own church activities there.
Right.
You know, that's not appropriate. But I think it is appropriate to say that we are funding what we feel is a way to make a historic structure that has been used by the community broadly accessible to everyone in that community.
I hear what you're saying. And in a way, are you suggesting, Paul, that we make it a condition that they then move on to complete the interior renovations that would make
Well,
this?
unless we're prepared to write a check.
No, we could just say, you know, you are now incentivized, or I mean,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
can
we can
be,
do that. Sure, we
that
can
can
do
be
that.
I will say, and now for a moment, I'm going to put another hat on, because I've been a member of this church for a long time. It is complex to make that building accessible.
Yeah, I'm sure
Our
you know
good
all about
friend
it.
Ed Meyer, the architect for the 1955 edition, really built that wing in a way that conformed with the topography and the ledge
Yeah.
around it.
Right.
So the church is challenged to make it accessible, but there has been clearly an intent to do this, and that's why some money has
Yeah.
already been committed.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
so it may not be a condition, but maybe it's some other language that says, you know, yes, this is the first step. We would really encourage, require, whatever. I don't know. I'm going to let the committee speak to that.
Okay.
I have a question. Paul was talking about material that would be used, and historical relevance or whatever of that material? What does that exactly mean? And what was the surface that was historically there?
Yeah, I don't think they knew. Um,
I mean, it looks sort of like sidewalk or something in that
well,
bottom. picture.
yeah, I don't know, but they were planning on using essentially poured concrete for most of it, I think, with some sort of stuff in it, you know, pebbles or something. I don't know what they plan on.
Okay, so now can I do another, I
Yeah,
work in
yeah,
historic
sure.
preservation all the time. So at this time, it's at the time of this photograph, highly, highly, highly unlikely that that was a concrete sidewalk. Most
Yeah.
likely it was pebbles, gravel of some sort.
Uh-huh.
But for a rolling surface, whether for a wheelchair or a baby carriage, something firmer is desirable. And I think what I saw from the grant application is very similar to what we have either at the sidewalk leading to town hall or here at Valley Road School, which is, an acid edged pebbled concrete. So it has a look of pebbly, a pebbly
Mhm.
surface, but it is easy to roll on.
Mhm.
And I believe that that is what was proposed in this application. Now, when
Okay.
it comes to the interior porch, I think your comment about the shape of that is coincidental, Paul. It's two paths leading up to that. But in order to make up that step into the building, you are then creating an inclined platform on top of the current terracotta tile. Yep, there you go, Paul.
Yeah, I don't think it's terracotta, Lynn.
No, it
Is
is.
it?
Yeah.
Is it? All right.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
red square, yeah, fired
Okay.
brick-like material.
Okay.
If this grant, if we choose to accept this, do they have to have some other people come in and try and like bid, or does anybody else have to comment on it, or can they just go ahead with this plan?
There's no preservation, there's no other agency involved here, Nancy. I think the Historical Commission would be happy to be consulted on it, and that would be appropriate. The Nahant Historical Commission. The building inspector is going to have to approve the plans. And then, these are design development. These are schematic designs. It really needs to then be brought into a bid document. And I would think the church would want to get some competitive bids on this.
Thank you.
Okay. Shall I move to the next one, Lynn?
Please do. Thanks for the deep dive.
All right. So I spent a couple hours over there too, and almost got perp walked out of the school entryway because I couldn't identify myself sufficiently to satisfy the gendarmes there, but finally did get my way in and spent a lovely hour and a half or so with the principal. And this is his baby. Let me get you a map to show you what's what. Let's see if I start with that and go to this, then I will get there. Okay. So, is this the right size? I can make it a little bigger. Maybe we'll go up to see what 125 looks like. That might work. Oops, I'm gonna do it slowly. Hold on. Okay, got it. Yes, got it. Okay, so let me orient you and then tell you what's what. Here's the Johnson School. Okay. And it fronts on Castle Road. And then around the corner on Flash Road is the fire station and the DPW. The ball fields are here. And there is a community garden and a, what do we call it, butterfly type garden in the back.
Mhm.
So this project is essentially to upgrade the current portion of the Town Heritage Trail, the portion between Nahant Road and Flash Road has been taken care of very nicely. Thank you very much. And this part is the poor orphan of the Heritage Trail. I think, let me describe this in a little more detail, going to the blow up to the right. Okay. There's a fence with access. This is literally just a red line. There is nothing really that indicates that you're on the Heritage Trail here. There might be one of those wooden post markers, but this is not a path. This is just walking across a grassy field. And then you go between the DPW and the ball fields behind behind home plate. It's kind of a pinch, and I'll show it to you in a photograph in a minute. And then at this point, you're no longer on a trail, you're on an asphalt driveway, which in fact is the access from Castle Road behind the school to the big parking lots up here. Now, theoretically, there are other ways to get in here, but both of these potential entrances are marked exit. So as of now, everyone who wants to get from Castle Road to the parking lot has to go across this asphalt pathway, which is the same as the Heritage Trail. And this seems to me to be a major flaw in this project. What is the project for? Yes.
I'm just for a point of clarification, is that the section that goes through the DPW yard where the metal recycling is, or is it behind that, truly like
No, up here it is
home?
behind. No, up here it is behind it. Okay.
Okay.
You can go if you go through here. If the gate is open, you can go through the DPW behind the fire station. But
Right.
with the gate closed, you must go outside of that area.
So like near where the ball fields are, where the bleachers are.
Right, you go close to the fence behind home plate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this was pegged to me as an alternative route for kids to get from Flash Road, who are coming from all of the areas in town up here, to the school on a path they could walk on or bike. That may be true up here, but I don't understand how that can be if there is a road that is used for access by more than 100 cars every day.
Right.
So I just don't understand it. And
So the road
Um,
behind the school there, right?
behind the school. It's also kind of a
Yeah.
crummy asphalt path or driveway also. It's in pretty bad shape. So there is a lot of nice concept here, but I think it's a much bigger project and requires much better segregation of uses than the principal was anticipating. Let me tell you what he had in mind. He wanted to make a uh, uh, stone dust pathway, and instead of having uh, lawn on either side, he wanted to do some kind of a garden, maybe on the Flash Road side, and leave a 15 or 20-foot boundary to plant with anything at all, right? And he's very big into native species and self-sustaining gardens. A lovely idea. But my problem is once you get past that and you get up to the ball field, it may have only been a problem of this time of year, but this whole thing was mud and wet with standing water. So there is an issue here of drainage, and you can't put anything here without first dealing with drainage. It's just not going to last. And then when you get to the asphalt pathway, I don't think that this is a safe area to encourage kids to walk. I mean, currently now they do skirt through here, and they, probably wait for a safe time to cross, and then scoot up to the school along the side of the school on this side. But I think there's a lot of planning that needs to be done. I tip my hat to the school. They've done some very nice garden work in the back here themselves, with a excuse me, kind of like a little adventure playground and lots of nice plantings, and they're getting a lot of support from volunteers, and I certainly don't mean to discourage that, but I think there more needs to be done, and it is a very nice idea to tie it into the community garden and the butterfly garden, which are back over here. And then for another day, I think they'll be planning about what to do through Coast Guard housing, which is over here.
So can I ask another question, or
Sure.
should I save it for the end?
No, go ahead. I'm pretty much done.
All right. So it's, depending on how the committee feels, if they're in favor of something like this or not, would a potential next step be, in order to address some of the concerns I'm hearing you raise and that I agree with? I know that area well. Both my kids went there, and the improvements have happened, since they've been out of the elementary school. But I know that area quite well, from baseball and from driving around that school every single day, right?
Right.
But would a next potential, would a recommendation be to you potentially recommend some money for maybe landscape architecture planning to help develop this more than, a little more professionally is not the right word, but that's what's coming to mind.
No, I think professionally is the right word.
Mm.
I mean, that's my inclination, but I'd love to hear what other people have to say.
Paul, could I just ask a question? It's Lynn speaking. How was the budget derived?
I
And
don't
is there
know.
room in that budget for?
Sorry, I didn't pin him down on that. I should have.
Well, that could be a question that we could say, in advance of him coming in to our meeting, here's some of the issues that the committee was
Right.
concerned about.
Right.
And there's a good example of that asphalt walkway. That
Mhm.
asphalt driveway, I think, is in part and Austin is on this call, is in part the 360-degree access for fire and emergency vehicles to that building.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I would think that that's part of that story.
Right, and this is what I was talking about. I don't know what this thing, I think this might be an outdoor privy. I'm not sure. But here's the backstop for the ball field. And this was a sea of mud.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So you're
and-
raising questions about drainage and surface materials. Ellen's suggesting that, some money for landscape design or civil engineering might be a good idea. Because we have put money over and over into the Heritage Trail in various sections since its inception. It really would make sense to make this really easy for the children and their parents to use, and safe as well.
Then what would it cost to come up with a first-class plan? Do you have any idea?
I think part of it is the route. Can you go
Yeah, I
back to the
know.
map for a second?
Yeah,
'Cause
sure.
I think,
Right, there's
wait,
also there's a street crossing too, right?
yeah, there is. There is, when you cross from the lowlands area, you cross the street. There is a sidewalk. Okay, here, I have to say, when I walk the Heritage Trail, this is not the route I use. When I go on it, I actually cut. I can't use my pointer, but if you go to item 4,
Yep.
I then cut along the backside of the ball fields and then cross across the
So
playgrounds area. Ellen, do you know what I mean?
You're talking about through here?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I go along. Yes, I do. I try to actually avoid the ball fields. And so I go up to approximately where 4 is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I go along that edge of green and blue
Yeah.
towards the
That's-
playground designation. You're doing your
Right.
arrow in the wrong way.
Or you're going you want to go the other way?
Yeah, I'm going
Oh.
up to where,
Okay.
yeah, I'm going up towards where it's labeled
Yeah.
playground. So I'm going
Yeah.
along that edge of blue and green, right along
Yeah.
that edge. Yep,
Yeah.
good. And then I'm going across a kind of scuzzy little field.
Yes.
Scuzzy little area. And I'm
Yeah.
usually trying to check that tennis court and basketball court under construction. And that's how I'm walking towards it.
Oh, I see.
But that avoids cutting through the DPW area and all of that. But I don't know if that is too far out of the way. And Ellen and Nancy, both as parents, I don't know how you would feel about your kids going through there. It's very scenic, but it would actually keep it out of the DPW garage area.
It's an interesting thought. So this is all the Lowlands golf course, right?
Yeah, not walking through the golf course. You're walking at the edge of it, basically.
At the edge of it. I see. You in danger getting hit by a golf ball?
As much as getting hit by a baseball.
Yeah, right. Well. Yeah, I mean, I think, to tell you the truth, it's also nicer down here to go on this side of the community garden rather than the other side.
Yeah, I go at the edge of so I go down that little zigzag pathway, go along what's marked, heavy red. So you're between the community garden and the butterfly garden. There's also a little tree nursery over there that Mark Cullinan started years ago. There's stuff over there.
Who's in charge of plotting out the Heritage Trail? The Open Space Committee?
Yeah, that was done years ago when Linda Pivacek was chairman of the Open Space Committee. And I think she worked with Mark Cullinan, who was at that point the town administrator on the layout of that. But I think to the point you're raising, there was also there was a recreation committee that was involved with making recommendations for this whole playground area.
That's
And
true.
I think we should look at what they said about this pathway. If I'm not mistaken, Paul, Ann Spurn was on that committee.
Yeah, she might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
think what you're raising are a number of topics that really deserve deeper consideration and getting, the school and possibly Zach Taylor, who is head of DPW, into this conversation.
well, the elements of what I think he's trying to achieve here are a nicer and safer route for the kids to take to
Yeah.
school. And I guess by that he means from Flash Road. An opportunity to make interesting gardens with an educational quality to them. And he applied those principles to the pre-existing heritage trail. And it seems to me that if the location of the trail is not sacrosanct, that maybe there are better ways to achieve these goals than following this particular route. And I don't understand why they feel that they have to route all the traffic behind the building. I mean, that's silly. I mean, you can make for safer access in and out of the parking area in a way which is intuitive rather than this. I couldn't even find it initially. I couldn't believe that that's where I had to go to park my car in the
You
parking
couldn't
lot.
find your way around the back of the school to the parking lot, you mean?
I couldn't believe that they were sending me there,
Well,
But anyway,
Yeah.
there is so much, at the crucial times are the drop off and the pick and the.
yeah,
pickup.
right,
And
right.
during that time, this is kind of, instead of having a clog going in and out of the parking lot from the streets, this actually, I think, works really well to keep people moving along and moving through there and spacing them out. So I just think that's the way.
Yeah, but there were kids, Nancy, there were kids all over the place behind the school. I was there at discharge time.
I mean, I'm not,
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of layers of what we're talking about here, but I mean,
Yeah, right.
traffic flow, that's a
Yeah.
kind of a good way to do it. But I know that when Kevin spoke to us initially, safety was a big part of this whole deal. that
Oh, sure.
He was wanting
Sure.
to promote. And so, I think the safety issue is something that you're bringing up, and also the substance of the ground and drainage and all that
Yeah.
impacts on the surface of the road, but also any plantings or what that they want to do. So I think both of those need to be studied further.
So let's make sure, Paul, if you could actually communicate these
Yeah.
at least three concerns.
Yeah.
Safety, drainage, traffic flow,
Right.
to Kevin, and then let's actually ask him if he can join us next Monday.
That might be, I think maybe let's give him 2 weeks. I mean, I know you're looking for an agenda for next week,
I
but
am.
that's I'm on to you. But I think that's a lot to ask of him. So I'll see if he's willing to do it. But
Okay.
otherwise, we'll definitely get him in here no later than the week after.
And what I would encourage him is to be in touch with Zach Taylor, who this would
Mhm.
fall under, quite honestly, when it comes to implementation, to get his input on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm checking my Nahant calendar, Nancy.
I think the question about, is there some kind of sacrosanct trail? I mean, no, I don't think so. And I think it's just, we wanted to go from, point A to point B across Nahant, and things have built up over time, and wherever it's safely and best done, I'm sure it can be moved around.
Good point. Okay. Great. Paul, thank you for the work
Sure.
that you've been doing on this. This is very helpful. And those issues are now identified. So let's move on. If you're finished, Paul, I don't want to cut you
Oh,
off.
yes,
But I am.
more than finished.
Okay, great. The next two were under David Wilson, who is not here for us today. They were the 9 Little Nahant Road property and the proposal for a housing production plan. So let us hope that he's able to join us at the next meeting to discuss those two.
Lynn, do you know what happened at the sale? Did the
It did-
sale actually go
It did
on?
not take place, so I can report on that. The
Yeah.
auction has been postponed, and to my knowledge, a new date has not been established.
Uh-huh.
And this is an auction, by the way, that is being conducted by HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Division, that had inherited the homeowner's mortgage when they defaulted. So, and this is a situation which is being conducted by HUD. The town really has very limited say in that auction at this point.
Wow.
If the auction fails, then the town will have a greater voice, as I understand it. And the continuing looks at how to at the disposition of this property.
Mhm.
Wasn't this subject discussed at the Board of Selectmen meeting last week?
It may have been, Nancy.
Oh, we had heard that it was a topic, and I was just wondering what that was all about, but I guess no one knows.
I don't routinely attend those meetings unless I know that there's something like this on the agenda, and I don't know if it was actually on the agenda. Might have come up in the citizens forum. Okay. The next two were under Austin Antrim, the town hall, which was the basically the acoustical, it's labeled on our chart as town hall stage curtain and main hall window curtains, but in fact, that application did get updated and completed. So I think,
Oh, okay.
so Ellen, I'm sorry, this was submitted by Kristen. Later, when in the last meeting, we found that it was an incomplete application, and I believe that she sent in a completed application. Did that get into this chain?
When did she do that? I put in what I had already received.
Yeah, I don't think it's,
Into the-
I think it's the shorter
That
initial.
doesn't look like it's the one that was updated. Kristen, are you on the
Okay,
line? Kristen?
Don't see her name anymore.
No, I don't either.
Lynn, this is Austin. Yeah, I did not receive the application through the committee as a whole, but I did reach out to Kristen and she did send it to me.
Okay.
And then so I can give you all details.
Wow, that's great, Austin. So have at it.
I was able to
story.
speak with Tony about this. So the biggest change in the application is the request is not 15,000. The request is 100,000.
That's a bit of a change,
Yes.
isn't it? Yeah.
So the town had a couple of studies done. One was a lighting assessment. The town had received a grant to upgrade town buildings to LED lights. The town administrator held off on the portion for the main hall or auditorium, whatever you want to call it, at town hall, knowing that the lights that were part of that grant would not be appropriate for the space, given the historical nature of it. So he had, Lynn can help me with the
Yeah,
company.
Available Light, I think was the name of the company.
Right, thank you. So they made some recommendations as to appropriate light fixtures. Historically appropriate light fixtures. There are a total of 8 light fixtures in the main hall. This does not address the light fixtures for the stage area. So as part of that lighting assessment, I think they allocated or guessed at a design cost of approximately $10,000, installation cost of, I think it was another $20,000. And then depending on what lights were chosen, there was sort of a wide range. Let me see. Don't have those numbers in front of me, but it was, you know, somewhere in the 100,000 plus range for the 8 lights. He also had a sound and acoustic study done, and they made recommendations on how to improve the sound quality in the space. Part of that was putting stage curtains back up, and they had some specific recommendations on the material and thickness. I don't know much about that, but they also recommended putting panels over the, 12 window panels. And basically for the windows in the main hall, there would be panels from, I think they're 12 feet tall or something, floor up. And the panels in the stage curtain would have the effect of sort of absorbing some of that sound and making it a little easier to hear. They had some other recommendations as far as sound panels mounted on the ceiling and on the back wall above that sort of seating area up top at the rear of the hall. So what the town is seeking with this 100,000 is to spend between 9,000 and 15,000 for the stage curtain and the window panels, and then spend approximately 85,000 for design installation of appropriate lighting. So those two make up the $100,000 request. There was further recommendations on replacing the sound system, and the town administrator believes he can address that through the general fund, some IT money they have in the general fund. So he believes he wants to do the work on the stage curtain in the windows, see what effect that has before he adds the other types of sound absorbing material that are not historically accurate for the space. But the bulk of the request is for the lighting.
Thank you, Austin. Committee, reactions to this, please?
I should add that replacing the lighting is not just a matter of aesthetics. In the study they did, the lighting is ineffective for the space. So it would improve the lighting in the space, and also they would be LED lights just that are historically accurate in appearance. So they would be energy efficient. They would improve the lighting in the space and be more historically accurate than what is currently in place.
Mm-hmm. So just to give a little bit of a framework on the current fixtures in Town Hall, those were installed according to my understanding, around the time of the Second World War, when town hall was used for recreational activities. So the very handsome fixtures that are now here at Valley Road were originally in town hall.
Mhm.
They're a multi-branched fixture. But I think the main thing is, Austin is correct. The analysis is that there's not enough light in town hall for people to easily read and understand things. And then we all have experienced the acoustical challenges of that space. So this was a professional, this is Kavanaugh Tachi, this is what they do. They actually look at acoustical mitigation, and to do that with fabric or acoustical panels is a pretty conventional way to start. And it seems to me it makes sense to start with the basics of the stage curtain and the window curtains and see if that works before they start adding other elements. I would assume, Austin, that stage curtain and the window curtains would all have to be fire retardant fabrics.
Yes, that's correct. That's in the fire code.
Yep.
So doesn't this imply that the problem with the acoustics is reverberation?
That's one of the problems.
Yeah, they did
Is
some
that your-
sound,
Yeah, go ahead.
Paul, they did some sound tests that was
Yeah.
included in the updated application, where
Yeah.
they explained, basically they went in and popped a balloon and had some equipment that tested, I don't know exactly, but basically how fast the sound travels back, I guess, to their equipment. And there's a specific amount of time that, or sort of a target time for that sound to travel, and it's far too fast in the hall the way it's currently set up. So it needs things in there that will sort of dampen the sound and slow
Yeah.
that sound
Okay.
travel down.
All right.
Any other question? One other thing the town administrator said of the applications that are involved, or that the town has put forth or are involved in, this one is priority 3 of that total.
Oh, okay. Well, that's useful.
That's helpful to know.
information.
Now we're aching to know what 2 and 1 and 2 are, but we'll have to wait.
Yeah, I do have that information if you want.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, 1 would be 9 Little Nahant Road. 2 would be the housing study. 3 is
okay.
the audio and lighting improvements.
Mhm.
And then 4 is the next one I'm going to discuss.
Okay.
Any more questions before I move on to the next one?
Mhm. No, it's good for me. Anyone else? All right, Austin.
All right, so the next application from the town is, again, the library and town hall exterior improvements, and also Green Lawn Cemetery wall and archway. I did speak with the town administrator about this application. When I read it, I was initially a little confused because it seemed to be focused on the Green Lawn Cemetery wall. But once I spoke with Tony and reviewed one of our prior meetings, it sort of set me straight that last year, this committee or town meeting approved a CPC application for $500,000 for work on library, town hall, and possibly Green Lawn Cemetery wall and archway. The town put that work out to bid. They also had received a $50,000 grant towards the library portion of the work, I believe. So they went out to bid. They broke that work out as a base bid for some of the town hall and library exterior work. And then there were 4 alternates that the companies bidding could bid on. They went ahead after receiving the bids and awarded it. Actually, I think at the last selectmen's meeting, it was awarded. But the total of $550,000 they have only covers the base bid and alternate 1 and 2. So alternate 3 is the repair work on the town hall cupola. And the company that they awarded the work to has a bid on that work of $176,000. And then alternate 4 is for repairs to the town hall chimney. That work came in at $20,000. So the total for those 2 alternates are about $200,000. The total ask for this grant is $350,000. So what the town is hoping is that if this is awarded, they can go ahead and have the company that they awarded the bid to complete alternate 3 and 4 in the bid package that has already been completed. And then the additional $150,000 will go towards the Green Lawn Cemetery archway and possibly wall, but most likely just the archway. In 2018, a study identified those as, I think, needing to be repaired within 3 years. That was done in 2018. They estimated in 2018 the archway alone would be $94,000 roughly, and then another 636,000 for the wall, which would include a new stone cap. So the town is hoping to address the archway first. That seems to be more critically important at this point, and they think that additional $150,000 would be able to get the work in the archway done. That would, of course, have to go to bid separately, though.
Okay. Right.
Ben,
well,
hadn't we done something with the cupola before?
Yes,
yes, we did.
yeah, it was before my time on the committee, but I think that was the gold on it. I'm not sure. There is some leaking going on from the flashing and some rotting woodwork, I believe, around the base of the cupola. I don't know the extent of the work.
Yes, I can just say that we did. There was work on the cupola in terms of woodwork repairs and work on the roof, which was then gilded. But at the base of the cupola, I think is what Austin is talking about. Apparently, there has been some leaking that has occurred. And this would be a good time to finish getting that weather vane, which is now at a shop. I mean, I delivered it to the Tin Man up in Beverly years ago, thinking that when we are next back up on the cupola, because getting up to the cupola to install this weather vane is an effort. So we are still holding $7,000 from that previous grant for the weather vane. And if it can, and it's logical that it would be combined with this project to get it back up there.
Okay.
Austin, thank you for decoding this. I have to say, it did require this kind of research and analysis by you to really say what that grant application was asking for. It wasn't clear.
No, I think it was hastily written. But as far as the archway in that study, one thing I suspected but wasn't sure of until I read that, that as well as Ellingwood Chapel were constructed using stone from the quarry that was in Nahant across the street, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't imagine there's many structures left that were made from stone taken from Nahant.
Mhm.
No, there's not many. I mean, there's the stone barn on, what's the name of that road?
Spring Road?
Spring Road. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. there's Tudor Stone Barn, which is also that wonderful stone. But yeah, the fact that that was all quarried across the street is pretty significant. Well, thank you. Other comments from the committee? And this one was priority which?
This was priority 4.
4, okay. All right. The next one on this list was under your side of things, Nancy. Are you able to comment on the playground equipment upgrades?
Sure. And that, by the way, and these numbers can all be found if you look carefully on the grants, but this was 5 of 8 in terms of what the priority was for the town.
Oh, good. Thank you for reminding us of that.
Was there any more submission by the town with any more detail on this topic that I don't know about, or is this?
I just went on a search, Nancy, to see if I had gotten other things from Kristen that I had neglected to send to you. And apparently I did exactly that on this town hall application. I don't see anything else in the chain of things that she sends to me. And
Okay.
but I think it does deserve a little bit more explanation.
Yeah, so I had a meeting with the town administrator and Kristen, and we talked about both of the other one that I had was the flagpole. But I was just totally kind of in the dark about the process that they were going to use and how any of it was going to happen, like how they were going to evaluate the playground, decide what was needed, et cetera, et cetera. So when we talked to Tony before this at a meeting, he said something like, oh, this, remember there was one about the Little Nahant playground. And we said, well, you know, you have money from last year about that. I think it was 25,000. And he said, well, that was going to cover a piece of equipment.
One piece of equipment, right?
Right. And so so it turns out in the application, it says it's about 3 playgrounds.
Yeah.
But when I went to talk to him, he was including all the playgrounds. At least this is what I understood, and that they were all going to be evaluated. And he used the Little Nahant playground as an example. And so he says that there's a company which they use. So I was happy to hear there was some company that knows about this. I think it's called the New England Recreation Company. They've used them before. And so what you do is you tell them the area that you want to take care of and kind of what ideas you want to do with it. And then they give you various alternatives of what might be possible. And that's how it kind of goes. And he told me that this company knows all about the safety regulations and all of the stuff that you're supposed to know. So I felt reassured that there was somebody who understood how the safety of it was and what the rules were and everything. So this is a process that he anticipates, and this was totally verbal and not at all written. For each playground, he's going to figure out this process and then wants to go to the neighbors in that area and talk to them about this, and then have their input in both raising money, because this is incredibly expensive, you know, 100,000 sounds like a ton of money, but when you hear about how much this stuff costs, it's hard to imagine what it is going to cost. But he thinks if he enlists the neighborhoods around it, they will not only help like raising money and also saying what they want there, what's important to them, which I think is really, really important, but also that they would be part of the process of doing the work and the installation, which would also save a ton of money.
Who's
So,
gonna do the work?
so volunteers from the neighborhoods would help do the installation work,
Okay.
which would save the cost, because the installation is also like really expensive. So so with the help of Julie Tarmy in the Historic Society, I've been trying to figure out when stuff was done to help the playgrounds in the past. And just going through the CPC grants, it looks like that 2006 was the last time when money was used specifically for the playgrounds. And Tony says, well, things just kind of little things happen over time, like they take care of the wood chips, or they do this, or they do that. And then interestingly, Julie found an article from the item from 2004 talking about the Swing With Me group, which had done a lot of the work before. And Tony and I discussed a little bit about how certain needs of children, age groups, were not being represented, and that came out in our open space survey. And I found in this article that Julie found that Pleasant Street was supposed to be for preschoolers, and Flash Road for kids between the ages of 6 and 12, and the Short Beach for all ages. So it's interesting, in 2004, they had some kind of concept of different age groups and different playgrounds. That all needs to be reassessed too, in terms of looking at all these playgrounds. So when I got finished with the meeting, I felt good that they had someone who understood the codes and would help them know what was needed. I felt good that there was like going to be community involvement, but I don't see a plan for all this that's like written out, and I don't see a budget that comes from any evaluation of specifically each playground, what its needs are, and this whole working with the community type of thing, like who is exactly gonna do this part. He sort of said, well, maybe open space could help us with these community things, and it's like, well, that's really not at present our scope of work. But anyway, so to me, there's still a whole lot of detail to be presented in a grant to address this issue that I don't see written anywhere.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. Comments from the group hearing all this?
This is Ellen. Just listening to what your analysis, Nancy, and I love playgrounds, but it does sound like it would be challenging for us to justify supporting it without understanding how this money would be spent, basically. That's what we're missing, is how is this money going to be spent? We can't I don't know if we can just allocate it and say, okay, $100,000, you can kind of, put a check mark next to it. So when you're ready to proceed, you have it. But I feel like the procedures that we follow, when you're ready for the money and you have a plan to how to spend it, then come ask us and we'll talk about it then. It doesn't seem well cooked enough yet to me, from what you've said.
I mean, I totally feel that way. And I also feel like maybe taking every single playground in Nahant in one giant grant, maybe not the best way to do it. And maybe if focusing a little on, I mean, making a plan about who has needs and where they should go, but then maybe asking for money over periods of time, realistically would probably be better thought out and better able to be accomplished.
Well, and just to add to that, a little more clarity, $25,000 was allocated for one piece of equipment. So you're basically talking essentially about 4 pieces of equipment here. How is that going to be allocated, right? Maybe 5 if spending that much money that you can get a bit of a price cut, but it does feel not fully baked.
Right, and if you were going to depend on community to raise money and contribute time and work, then I think that should be part of the whole calculation also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I ask this? Does it make sense to say something like this to the town? We'll give you a planning grant. We'll give you money that's substantial enough for a planning grant that does look comprehensively at the playgrounds and actually starts and sets age levels and equipment levels and budgets for each of those playgrounds. So that when they do come back to us, they're saying, okay, we want to upgrade the, Pleasant Street playground in the following way.
That makes total sense to me. That's the way I like to approach some of the other projects in town, and having an overall plan with somebody who knows that would be so much better.
So would you be willing to reach back to Tony and suggest that and ask him to come up with a budget, if he agrees with that, to come up with a budget for that study?
I'll try. Yep.
Okay.
This is Jim Dolan.
support
Could
that.
I share a thought?
Yeah, Jim. Yeah, please.
So, I would agree with the concern that this doesn't seem fully baked from the sense of what are you actually getting for your $100,000 share. But if for though I have 3 young children and we often go to the park in Swampscott behind their football field, which was, I believe the money from that was a private donation. And I think it was to the tune of about $350,000
Wow.
for that one park. And I'm not sure if these companies that do this, in fact, provide this type of scope services in advance of getting the business, but I suspect they do, because it'd probably be pretty tough to ask a town to spend 15 grand on, park architecture work. And I also don't understand all of this stuff, it being my first meeting. But, is there money available for that type of project, or is this $100,000 from Tony more looking like a maintenance for the parks? I don't know if that came up.
That is part of the evaluation, like, stuff is terrible. It's our worst playground, the one by Short Beach. And so that's why it was going to be mostly just wiped away. And a lot of the terrible tables and dangerous stuff has already been removed. So there's like, what is good? What can we keep? What can we not keep? But also, what do we need? It can be part of the process. That playground you talk about in Swampscott is like an amazing playground, and I don't think we're talking about anything like of that size or complexity, but it's a fabulous playground.
Which is it's essentially, it's only it's roughly 3 structures, and I would say comparatively to other communities, essentially seems pretty standard.
Uh-huh.
So
From
Jimmy, where is it again? If we wanted to
So
take a look.
yeah, if you wanted to take a look at it, you would go to the football field in Swampscott, and on that football field, it's turf. So it's like, artificial turf in the park, the playground area. There is one structure that is for young children, so probably under 5. There's swings, an accessible swing, a baby swing, and then there's a climbing structure that is probably pretty comfortable for 5 to 8-year-olds, and then there's a very large structure with 2 slides, which is significant but attached to it. So really, it's just about 2 or 3. And frankly, I believe the labor was donated by a Nahant resident, and I'm actually certain of that.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yes, and I mean, my having 3 young kids, it's often we're looking for anything to do to keep them busy, driving around the North Shore, looking at parks. So it's my guess here that it's expensive to do it right, and our community parks compared to other community parks are, I would say, they pale in comparison.
But it's amazing to me how long ago work was done on them. So I'm almost like thinking like, holy crow, work was done last in like 2006 and they look this good. But they clearly are outdated in what you're saying compared to the other cool Swampscott one is behind the soccer field by the high school. It's another standing playground.
Yeah, and I think the ones, they look pretty good. I think that the DPW, Zach and his team, make a lot of effort to maintain them.
Right.
But they're they're not great, and I don't think $100,000 fix it.
Well, all right. So this is interesting. I've been on this committee long enough that, yes, I was part of the team that made those matching grant awards to the remarkable Come Swing With Me group, which Aaron DeGrande and a committee headed. So that was a great example of the kind of, if you will, the neighborhood commitment to fundraising and activity. But it does seem to me that I agree with everyone who has said this, a great concept, but the grant application needs to actually be developed. And I think with a planning grant, we could help them advance this, which would include the time with community meetings. So they spend the time to get the community input and then work out the budget, the type of equipment and the budget for it, for each of those playgrounds. So if you would, I think that there seems to be a consensus around that, Nancy. So if you would return to Tony with that concept, and let's hear from him with the budget. What I'd like to do now is actually draw this meeting to a close, because I'm going to try to really hew to not much more over an hour and a half. And I'd like to suggest that our next meeting, which is next Monday, that we hear about the Heritage Trail project. I wrote this down. The Bailey's Hill, excuse me, not the Heritage Trail, the Bailey's Hill application, the Lodge Park application, and the flagpole. And I will reach out to David Wilson and see if we can get some traction on the 2 grants that he was looking at, which was the Housing Production Act as well, or Housing Production Plan, as well as 9 Little Nahant Road. That makes sense to everyone?
Perfect.
So I think the only thing that we've actually voted on tonight were the acceptance of the 2 sets of minutes. Otherwise, we're in a review and discussion of these grant applications. I'll just look down in chat land. No, I only have one comment from you, Ellen, and that's worked out for next week. You've got your 2 applications for review with us next week. Any other hands raised?
No, I'll see what I can get from Kevin, but
Yeah. I think honestly, if you could get Kevin in here or get a response back from him, I think that would be helpful. It's a little bit along the same lines. We're saying, take some planning money and get at it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if he can combine his planning as along with an implementation budget that makes sense, fine. I mean, I'd be happy to consider that as
Yeah,
well.
I think he's a ways away from that. I think it's much more expensive than he thinks it is. Lynn, but if I were to have, if I have a conversation with him, I'm going to say that maybe we got to look at this whole heritage plan notion in that area and just find the best route
Right.
to get what he wants to get out of it. Now, who does he have to negotiate with?
The DPW, Zach Taylor is going to come up more than once here.
Yeah.
And I think the Johnson School Committee.
But what about open space? I mean, weren't they the ones who blessed the Heritage Trail
Well,
concept
that's a
and route?
great point. Nancy, I guess it would be open space.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking for open space, the open space plan is very broad about all of
Okay.
these things. So nobody's gonna like start arguing about going this way, going right, going left. I mean, I guess the other thing I was worried about was the golf course. If you're talking about going across that land, were you, Lynn?
No, I'm skirting it, but you know, it does go along the edge of the golf course.
Okay, but on our land, not, I mean, the recreation
land.
land, not the golf land.
Not private property.
Yeah,
That's not private. That's owned by the town.
the town.
Oh, it
owns
is?
that. Yeah, the town
Yeah.
owns the golf course, but
I'm walking across that darn golf course all the time. I can't tell which is which.
right, I mean, when there's golfers out there, I get
Then
kids
you know.
off, you know, when they're, you know, I try to stay out of their way, but we don't want kids really doing that, so.
We don't. So it may be that the route that I was suggesting is too close to the edge of the golf course, and that will be something that Kevin can
All
comment
right.
on.
Okay.
But Nancy, you're in there too, probably
Yeah.
for the birds, because, oh my gosh, they're all very active right now.
Oh, yeah, they know spring's coming.
They sure do. It's great. It's great. Well, with that, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I have a second on that?
Come on,
Yeah.
Ellen.
Come on, Ellen.
Ellen, go ahead.
Ellen seconds.
Okay, and I have to go a roll call. All in favor, Paul,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Austin,
Aye.
Jimmy,
He's
Aye.
putting somebody to bed. Oh.
okay,
Yeah,
Nancy?
almost. I got off.
Aye.
Aye.
okay, Lynn, aye. Okay,
Okay. Good night, everybody.
thank you all. Really appreciate this work that you've been doing. It really helps. Okay,
Night.
good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
How do I get out of this?
Leave meeting.
Where is it? I don't see it. It's not on anything I can see. Come on. It's here somewhere.